Okay, so I got the fuel pump. It was $257 Canadian plus tax. Looking at it, and I kind of had a bit of a panic. The connector's different. So this one, you can see the connector looks like that. And this one, the connector looks like that. So they give you this kit, and then you have to wire it in. So that's interesting. Anyway, so the other pump that they had was $400 and something, and so I'm assuming that this one is cheaper because it fits a bunch of things, and then they just put in adapter harnesses that you can use on multiple vehicles. So I shouldn't have too much problem with that. It's going to add a little bit extra time to the repair, but just arrived home. It's 4:30, so I made pretty good time. Let's get that pump and see what the instructions say. They give you a gasket and some butt connectors. 4 butt connectors for 4 wires. I don't think I will be using those. Got this harness that plugs into the pump, and then 2 black wires, a purple and a gray. That was a GM fuel pump module assembly connector replacement. Disconnect the battery, disconnect the electrical connector, plugs it up to the fuel tank. Approximately 8 inches tape. Okay, so the color code. Orange black to black white. Oh, so one of these must be black. Okay. We got orange black to black white. New connector. Gray goes to gray, purple goes to purple, and black goes to black. Fairly straightforward. I think I will solder and heat shrink these. I don't want to have issues with my fuel pump or my fuel level, fuel gauge, because I used butt connectors and they corroded. So okay, I'm ready to go under the truck. I've got my instructions and my harness. I've got my dolly, my soldering gun, solder, heat shrink, and some side cutters. Here's the harness. So what I'm going to do is peel back into the factory loom so that my new wiring is protected by the loom. Alright, so I've realized that the wiring diagram doesn't match completely to my truck. So what I'm going to have to do is check the pump. The diagram here tells you, basically says orange black fuel pump ground, gray fuel level sensor, purple fuel level sensor ground, and then black fuel pump power. So I'm going to have to basically check the old pump. Well, that was pretty exciting. I just connected the wire to my battery to see if I could figure out if I had the wires connected to the fuel pump right, to check the fuel level gauge. And as soon as I connected the wire and walked away, it tried to start. But here it goes. So it locked the doors. Good thing I have the windows open. It locked the doors and tried to start. soon as I connect the battery. Okay, so apparently it's hooked up correctly. The gauge is going to the full position, and if we look over here, I have the float in the full position. If I pull it back down all the way, the gauge should go back down. And there we go. So now I can disconnect the battery. That was kind of nerve-wracking. So all in all, this isn't that bad of a job, other than being under a vehicle. That part sucks. I ended up getting a fuel pump that needed to be wired in, and then the wiring diagram didn't actually match my vehicle. And then when I tried to test it, my truck tried to start on its own. So there were a few annoyances along the way, but yeah, not really related to dropping the fuel tank. The dropping of the fuel tank was actually pretty easy, so if I were to do it again, I would do it the same way. I wouldn't flip the bed like a lot of people have. All I gotta do now is put some fuel in and see if it'll fire up. It'd be so nice if you didn't have to deal with that beep. See if the gauge goes up. Low fuel level. Went up a hair. Okay, so I think I can hear the fuel pump. Okay, so it is now several hours later. It is 10:42. I filmed myself trying to start the truck and it wouldn't start, and I thought maybe it was just an air bleed problem. So I looked into it. It took me quite a while to figure out that the pump was actually pumping backwards. So what happened was the diagram doesn't make any sense. It shows two different diagrams for the pump. So I'll show you guys the diagram and see if maybe you can figure it out. You can pause the screen and see if maybe I'm missing something. But from what I understand, on the one side of the connection, one side they show the connection that you have for the pump, and on the other side they show the connection that you have for the vehicle. And it doesn't seem very complicated as far as that goes. You see here it says, connect to vehicle body harness. Connect to vehicle body harness, and then over here it says new GT280 electrical connector, which is the connector that they're using on this pump. The figure 2 GT280 connector. This is the connector that they use originally on the truck. So this was cut off and this one was installed. And this is what I thought I was wiring by originally. And then I discovered that there's a whole other side here. And then I thought maybe it was this one because my truck's an 03, but that one didn't make any sense. So I went to the pump. I went down here to the bottom and thought that I would be clever and figure out. So it says, so this is the pump, and it says orange black fuel pump ground. The next connector is fuel level sensor low circuit. The next connector is fuel sensor signal circuit, which doesn't make any sense to me. This should just be, yeah, anyway. And then there's fuel pump power circuit, which doesn't make any sense. It should be fuel pump negative and fuel pump positive, not fuel pump power circuit. But what I ended up doing is I checked the factory pump. I think I have it on film. I checked the factory pump and made sure that I was spinning it the right direction and that I knew what wires were what. And then I tried to connect it based off of this, and I ended up getting the power wires to the motor backwards. So the gray, not even backwards, the gray for the, what they're saying is the fuel level sensor, is the power, the positive. So they call fuel sensor reference is positive power to the fuel pump. Black is the ground to the fuel pump. And then purple and orange black are the sensor wires. So this is completely wrong. I don't know what's going on here, but then if you look above that, it seems to have a different one. It says orange black fuel level sensor, gray fuel pump power circuit, what is this one? Purple fuel pump power. So this is what mine is here. But I don't understand. This says 2002. Like, do they sell different pumps and put this same sheet of paper in with both pumps? Either way, my truck is a 2003. This says 2002. And this says 2002 and 2003 models, all 2004 and forward. So this is the one that it says should be for my truck. I wired according to this and it was completely wrong, so I ended up going back and doing this, and now we'll see. It's working. The fuel gauge seems to be working and it starts. It was a nightmare to figure out, and yeah, I haven't eaten today. I've got this huge mess. I've got to put my truck all back together so I can do service calls tomorrow. So yeah, not very impressed. So off camera, I was trying to get my truck to start, and I figured there was some air in the system, but if I could get it to run for a few seconds, maybe the air would get pumped out. And so I decided to start it with starter fluid, and ended up making a pretty stupid error and almost getting injured. What happened was I decided to take the airbox lid off and spray some starter fluid in there and have my girlfriend in the truck turning the engine over, starting it. So started up, it was running, but it would shut off And so I got her to push the throttle while I was spraying some starter fluid in there. And of course, it backfired directly in my face. And yeah, it hurt quite a bit. Not severely, but yeah, it blasted me in the face really good. And it wasn't very easy on the eardrums. So yeah, that was exciting. So all in all, this was a miserable job, but not because of dropping the fuel tank. Yeah, so I don't know if the wires will match whatever vehicle you have, whatever vehicle you're putting the pump in, but I got the Carter fuel pump, and on my fuel pump, the yeah, positive to the fuel pump is gray, which matches the original harness. Negative is the large black on the truck and solid black on the new wiring harness. So yeah. Anyway,